Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to this IC Markets webinar, Crypto Trading Beyond the News, Price Action Analysis. So, welcome along everyone. My name's Chloe, I'm with Trade with Precision, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour or so. Before we get started properly with the webinar, I'd just like to give you a couple of moments to read through this slide, which is the risk disclaimer slide. While you're doing that as well, if you wouldn't mind popping some feedback into the questions box, that you can see my screen okay, that you can hear my voice okay, that would be fantastic, just so that we can get any issues there ironed out early on. I'll just leave you to have a couple more moments to read through that slide. All right, so that should be enough time to have read through that slide. A little bit of an introduction about myself. I am a trader based in London. I've been trading for 12 years, and I am predominantly a technical and trend or momentum based trader. I trade pretty much all markets, all leverage markets, from stocks to indices, commodities, cryptos, forex. And I must make a quick apology as well, just in case there is any sound carrying over. I do have a little one-year-old whose bedtime it is, and it quite often is a noisy occasion. So if any of that sound does carry across, then I can only apologise for that, but hopefully it won't affect things too much. Okay, just making sure you guys can all hear me okay, and then we will get started. So let's go through the agenda for today then. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to do a chart analysis for top assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum and Cardano, and we'll look at some other cryptocurrencies as well. We'll look at some possible short-term price movements and a watch list of crypto assets to consider. One other thing that I am going to do is I'm going to go through the some indices as well, because cryptos are part of most investors' portfolios currently. So they do tend to be highly correlated, at the moment at least, with equities. So it is always best to do a complete analysis. And with that said, I'm going to take you straight to the platform, so bear with me while I get that up. Okay. So I've got the IC Markets MT5 platform up here, and we're going to start off actually by looking at the US indices. So this is the US 500, the S&P on the weekly time frame. Let's just pop it onto the monthly time frame just for a little bit of context, whereby for the most part this year so far, the indices, S&P and the other US indices, have actually been pulling back down. So it's not necessarily a complete disaster, this correction at the moment. If we look at this monthly time frame, it is actually just within the normal realms of most corrections. So we can see back in the past we have had this correction here, which has come to the 50 moving average. These moving averages that I have on my chart, they are the 10, 20 and 50. So 10 in black at the top, 20 in blue in the middle and 50 in red at the bottom there. So the correction has come not quite down to the 50 moving average, but not far off. But in the past, we have seen that on the monthly time frame, the corrections do tend, or the larger corrections do tend to come all the way down to the 50 moving average. So this correction that we have had so far this year is not unusual. It's a little bit more extended in terms of the period of time, because it has been for most of the year, whereas previously we've generally had kind of 2-3 months of correction before moving off. So it is an extended correction, but it's not necessarily unexpected. We had a strong month in July, followed by a weak month, a bearish month last month, August. And so far this month, we have continued further down. But again, that's not necessarily unexpected, but I do anticipate more bearish price action on the US 500 along with the other US indices for the rest of this month. And it actually wouldn't surprise me if we did make it finally down to this 50 moving average down here. Now, what I would be looking for is I would be looking for price to bounce around this area, so down to the 50 moving average. If price can stay above this previous low that was formed in July, then that would potentially be an opportunity for the bulls to get back into the market and turn this around and continue what essentially still is an uptrend on this monthly time frame. On the weekly time frame, we can see here that actually there's the potential for price to settle into a bit of a range here between these lows down here from July and the highs formed along here between these two horizontal levels. So it's just going to be a bit of a waiting game. But with that said, you know, once we get onto talking about the cryptocurrencies, it's also a bit of a waiting game there. And so it's not really surprising given that the two are highly correlated. So having a look at the NASDAQ, again on the monthly, we've seen this correction. It's come down to the 50 moving average. We do have a bearish month last month and continued bearish price action for this month so far. So again, really it would be a case of looking at this horizontal level of support, and we can see it's been resistance and support in the past. And really waiting to see what happens next time price gets to this level. If this level ends up being broken to the downside, then that would be a particularly bearish signal, and I would expect potentially more to the downside. But if price can hold above this level, then perhaps it may recover, perhaps it may just range and consolidate for a little while, but that level there is key, and we'll have to wait and see over the next few weeks how price moves around or towards that level. Pretty much the same story for the US 30, the Dow. On the monthly time frame, we can see that this has been another large correction. It has come down again to this level here, which was a level of resistance just here. It has turned into a level of support and price has bounced at that point, but the bounce hasn't seen much of a continuation. This time last month, I was actually anticipating more of a bullish move here, and that just never really continued in a long-lasting manner, and so price has pulled back down. And again, we've got the potential here for price either to start to range within this area, or even for it to hit this level and break down through. But the bottom line is that currently those indices are quite bearish, and I would expect them to be bearish for the next couple of weeks, and I would then expect potentially for them to be quite indecisive. Now, if that is to be the case, then I would expect the cryptocurrencies to be quite indecisive as well, as they have been over the last few weeks. And the one thing I would probably take note of is these horizontal levels of support that I've been drawing in here. So let's take it back to the monthly. This previous low level, if price were to break that level on the US 30, on the NASDAQ, on the S&P, they're all pretty much in the same kind of ballpark areas. If those horizontal levels of support were to break, then that would be a bearish signal, and that I would expect to follow through on those cryptocurrencies as well. So I'm treating them as quite tied in with each other and keeping a close eye on what might happen. So moving on then to just have a look at the cryptocurrencies, I suppose the best place to start would be with Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, this is the weekly time frame. Let's look at the monthly just for a bit of context. So all the way back over here, this was the high of 2017, and that's basically pretty much where price is settling right now. The pullback that we have seen, you know, a lot of people are predicting doom and gloom for the cryptocurrencies. The pullback that we have seen, I mean, this is massive. This is a massive retracement, but it's not unheard of. So much as I was saying with the index markets, that the pullback that we're seeing at the moment, while it is a deep and fairly extended pullback in terms of time, it's not necessarily particularly unusual in that the pullback is only coming really to a level that we've seen price pull back to before in that 50 moving average. Now, in terms of the moves here on Bitcoin, we can see that 2017 we hit a high, which then saw a massive drop all the way down to this point here. So it was, I think, about an 80% drop in value of Bitcoin. We then subsequently, if I just draw in what I'm talking about, so a massive drop in value. We then saw another rally which failed to break to new highs, and then again a massive drop in value there. So this next rally, we simplify it all the way up to there. This is a massive drop in value, but it's not further than the previous drops we've seen after these exponential increases in value. So after the crypto rallies, there is always a sell-off, and it is usually a huge sell-off. Partly we can kind of blame the fact that I suppose cryptocurrencies it's one of the markets that retail traders and I suppose very novice traders are tempted into for whatever reason, whether that's because they are attracted to the potential of a kind of get rich quick, looking at stories of people who owned Bitcoin early on and then the values increased massively, and we've heard plenty of success stories there, and of course retail traders always want to piggyback onto the back of those success stories. And so I think cryptocurrencies are perhaps even more traded by amateur traders than other assets. And I think for that reason, the emotion, the boom and bust of the market can be even more prominent, I guess. So that's why this kind of bust situation where the crypto market has really crashed is not particularly unexpected, and it doesn't necessarily mean the beginning of the end for cryptos at all. It just means that we need to wait for the next boom before we start considering investing in cryptocurrencies again. So in terms of where price could be headed next, I don't necessarily think that this is the end of the drop in cryptocurrencies. It could be, but I don't necessarily think it is for sure. And the reason I say that is because what I was talking about previously about these US indices, if this horizontal level of support breaks on the US 500 or those other horizontal levels in around the same place on the other US indices, then I would see that as a very bearish signal, and I would probably expect that the previous low level of Bitcoin, for example, which is just here, I would potentially expect that level to be retested and potentially even broken to the downside. And if that happens, then I would expect the next move to come down to this previous high here. That's the next major potential level of support there. So for those people interested in shorting cryptos, there could potentially be another opportunity on the horizon if price gets down to this level, and especially if price breaks through that level, then that's something I will be looking out for, because I think if that level does get broken, then the possibility for price to get all the way down to this kind of 13,500 level down here is pretty strong. On the other hand, though, if this horizontal level here is the end of the crypto crash, then really all we need to do is wait for something to indicate that the uptrend is going to resume. Now, we did actually have that recently. On the daily time frame here, we actually did see a series of higher lows and higher highs. Very shallow higher lows and higher highs, but higher lows and higher highs nonetheless. But we then saw another fall, and we've since then seen lower highs, lower lows. So this indicates to me that this area that price has been trading basically since the middle of the year, around June, all the way up till now, this is basically a large range of price. The crypto market is still very, very undecided as to where it is going to go next and when. And so it doesn't serve us as traders to really speculate at this point. The point of trading is to have consistent profits, not to get in at the bottom of the market and get out at the top, because there's no way that you can turn that into a consistent way of making money. What we need to do is wait for the market to make its move, and then we need to get in at the earliest possible opportunity we can according to our safe and proven strategy. So for me, it's not about saying, well, if price gets down to here, I'm going to press buy and get in because that must be the low, because I have no proof or no way of being 100% certain that that is the low. Potentially price could go lower. So what I would say is, if price does go lower, then I would potentially look to short it all the way down to this kind of 13,700 level that I mentioned. If price holds at this level, then I would be looking for evidence of a renewed uptrend, which would be higher lows and higher highs, much like we've seen over here. But of course, I would only then trade those higher lows and higher highs according to a proper strategy. And once we do see higher lows and higher highs, it's entirely possible to get in at or near the lows each time and make some profit out of the market, even if it's not a prolonged recovery, even if we're not looking at getting in at 20,000 and riding it all the way up to 50,000 or something. We can, as traders, as day traders or swing traders, we can just get in at the lowest price we can manage and take profit along the way, perhaps a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 reward to risk trade, but just do it over and over again. So at the moment on Bitcoin, that is basically where I see price. I'd like to see it potentially head down to this previous low level, and I'd like to see what happens at that level. If it breaks through, then I'll be bearish for a period of time. If it bounces, then I will need to wait for the return of an uptrend before I make any decisions and do any trading on that. Really, I think this high here around 24,000, around about this area here, if price were to break above that, then I would be fairly bullish on Bitcoin. That's this range that price seems to have settled in between this level here and this level here. If price can get out of that trap, then I would be interested in trading it to the upside or to the downside. Moving on, let's look at Bitcoin Cash first of all as the next thing to look at. We don't have quite so much data to look at here, but it's a similar story in that at the moment things are looking pretty bearish. There is a floor that price appears to have settled at down here. The low could be reached, so there's nothing really stopping price moving much further down to around that $66 mark. But right now, around the $100, you can see that there is some support around there. There's been support back in 2018, back in 2020 as well. So it's around this $100 mark that price is currently kind of sitting and holding at. But in terms of what to do now with this one, again, At the moment, this is far too indecisive for me. Price is just consolidating and ranging sideways here. If I were to want to trade this, I would want to see, it's no good me saying, okay, well, this is a low price, let me buy and hold. Because as a trader, I'm looking to make consistent returns month on month. And I could be buying and holding this for a month and still not seeing much change or much profit. So what I want to see is I want to see the market start to move first, and then I will piggyback on that. So I want to see price form a low, wherever that might be. It could even be here, but then I want to start to see higher lows and higher highs. I'd like to see this level broken as well, and then that's a point at which I would start to consider getting into the upside. And as previously, at the moment, I would be looking for quite a conservative target, perhaps of 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 for my trading. I'd certainly be looking to make my trades safe, i.e. Turn them into break-even positions. So perhaps once price reaches a 1-to-1 reward to risk, to scale out of half of the position, so that if price turns around, I don't stand to lose the stake in the market, but I would still have half of the position open to take advantage if price does continue. So at the moment, very, very cautious trading strategy on cryptocurrencies until we see a more decisive move. Ethereum, this is something that actually I think it's one of the more bullish out of the cryptocurrencies. So again, if we look at the monthly time frame, we can see how huge the pullbacks have been in the past. So again, from 2017, this pullback, I mean, I don't know exactly what percentage, but it's over 80% pullback. So this surge that we've just seen from last year, it has pulled back, but it hasn't necessarily pulled back all of the way yet. You can see over here, big move up, big pullback, another move up, and even more pullback. So if we're looking for something similar, then we've got a big move up, a big pullback. We could see another move up followed by a further pullback potentially. So it's not necessarily the end of the crypto crash by any means. And again, what I would be looking for here is I would be looking for evidence of a renewed uptrend. Now, these levels that I have here, good question. Question here, what about the gap in Ethereum? Will it be closed? I presume you are talking about this gap here. Will it be closed? Potentially. You know, I can't tell you with 100% certainty there, but what I can say is that price has come and tested this level already, and the gap wasn't closed then. What I would say is this now is my next level of potential support. I would say if price makes it back down to here, then I would be just very closely looking at this level. If it breaks through, then yes, I would expect that gap to be closed. But if this level holds again and price moves to the upside, then perhaps not. Perhaps I wouldn't expect that gap to be closed. So it will all depend on what happens at this horizontal level. It's around 877. As to whether that gap will close. But I do think there is the potential, as I did say, because over here from 2017 up to 2018, that was a massive retracement. And I don't think that we've seen such a huge, it probably to crypto investors, it feels like a massive retracement, but actually in the scheme of things, based on past history, it's not as big of a crash as we have seen in the past. So there's the potential for further. Yes, thanks, Yilmaz. Current pullback around 80%. Previous was 93.5% pullback. Yeah, it was a massive pullback, and we definitely haven't seen that much yet. So the potential is there for even more pullback if we're basing it on past price action. So where does that leave us right now? Well, this rally here has been pretty strong. We've come all the way from 877 all the way back up to around 2000 just over the last kind of couple of months. In terms of daily time frame, we can see that again, much the same as Bitcoin, it has been an uptrend here on the daily time frame. This is a stronger uptrend than we saw on Bitcoin, and I actually am a little bit more positive on Ethereum at the moment. It's one of the ones that I'm looking more closely at for a potential return to the upside. But at the moment, we don't have an uptrend. At the moment, it is lower highs and lower lows, and now this price action here is just sideways, it's just consolidating. So it's going to be very much, is price going to reach back down to this previous low? Is it going to break and continue down, perhaps even down to this level here, in which case is that level going to break, or is price going to perhaps stall at this point and come back up? And if so, it will be this level here that is key. If that's broken, then I would expect further moves to the upside. So right now, again, much the same as on the indices, much the same as on, I think most cryptocurrencies are very similar. It is a waiting game at the moment. I'm not buying any cryptocurrencies. I'm not picking any low prices and saying this is the low. I'm going to definitely get in because I'm not convinced it is the low. It could be, but I need to wait for price action to lead here. And at the moment, price action is not leading at all. It's not going anywhere. So some other key cryptocurrencies to look at. And now usually when I'm building a watch list, I build a watch list which contains assets that I intend to trade over the next month or over the next week. Now, I can't say with any certainty whether I am going to trade any of these cryptocurrencies within the next week or within the next month. So all I can do is tell you my analysis and tell you what I'm waiting to see in order to make it tradable. So right here, we've got Ripple. This is the weekly time frame. We can see this horizontal level here. It's around 0.3. We can see a lot of resistance has taken place here in the past over here. And therefore, I do expect it to be a reasonably strong level of support. If this support level holds, then it will be a case of simply waiting for a higher high here, followed by a higher low, and then I will be bullish. Then I will start to look for long opportunities. But again, very, very tentatively, very conservative with my targets, very conservative with my risk management, because I don't think the picture around all cryptos is particularly clear or decisive at the moment. The one good thing about trading cryptos is the horizontal levels I find are pretty easy to spot, even for relatively new traders, and the price action does tend to react around those horizontal levels quite significantly. So that's one of the things that makes crypto trading almost a little easier, if you like. Okay, so Cardano, another very, very commonly traded cryptocurrency, and we can see here again, this is really a very, very sideways market at the moment. We've got the low down here, around 0.39, 0.40 is the low here, and price basically since hitting that low back in May, it's really just been moving sideways ever since. And so in terms of what I am looking for here, I would be looking, currently price is trapped within this range here. I would be looking for this high to break to the upside. then I would be looking for a pullback. And around this area here, around 0.58 or thereabouts, I would be looking to potentially start thinking about long opportunities. When this level is going to break, or if this level is going to break, I cannot tell you, but price could come up to this level and simply see it as resistance and continue ranging sideways for a period of time. Also, there's nothing really stopping price getting lower here as well, quite possibly. I mean, if there is going to be another correction on cryptocurrencies, another move to the downside, then they will all tend to move. So none of these are absolutely rock bottom yet. There is still room to the downside. So there's certainly not a case I see for saying this is the lowest price, let me just get in, unless you are looking as a long-term investment to just buy and hold. If that is something that you truly want to do, then by all means, this is a pretty low price already on Cardano. But for myself, even buying and holding, I would rather wait until up here, until price has been up here, and then this is the area that I would choose if I was going to be buying and holding, because I would want to have more confirmation of an uptrend first. There is not much more to say about this one, EOS. It's looking slightly more bullish because the horizontal level it has been resistance over here. So we've got a couple of levels in here actually. So we've got a support level just there. Support level just there, and a resistance level. So that's based on this price action over here. We've been below, we've come back up. Currently we have a very messy but predominantly uptrend. If we just look at this price action here, we've got higher lows and higher highs. We're just seeing potentially a lower high at this point, so this will really depend on, can price stay above this horizontal level here, or is it going to break down below? But at the moment I feel a little bit more bullish about this than some of the other cryptos, just because of the fact that price currently is sitting just above this 1.4 level. If it comes back down within this range, then of course that settles that, and it will no longer be bullish. This previous low is key. This horizontal level is key. If price gets below both of those, then I will no longer be bullish. But if price sticks above this 1.4 level, then I am quite bullish on this. To be honest with you, I wouldn't necessarily be choosing to buy though, because I think with cryptocurrencies, they all tend to move at the same time, in the same direction. And if this cryptocurrency moves to the upside while everything else is stagnating or moving down, then likely the move to the upside on this is not going to be particularly long-lived. And so it's not necessarily a trade that fundamentally I would want to be getting into. But it is, in terms of technicals, slightly more bullish at the moment than some of the others. Finance coin, this is really looking quite bearish at the moment, and we've got a pretty well-established range between these highs here around 336 all the way down to around 200, 204. So that range there is pretty well established. Price is sitting right in the middle of that range right now. It wouldn't surprise me if price were to get all the way down back to the bottom of that range over the next kind of a few weeks. While the market is still really moving sideways, it's entirely possible that that could get down to the bottom. It might not, but that's really what I'm looking for in terms of BNB. what I would then be very keen to look out for is this horizontal level here around 204, is that going to hold? Because if that level does hold, then this is a fairly well-defined range. And if I start to see bullish price action, or even, so for example, over here in the past, price reached down to this level, it then formed a bottom, a high, a slightly higher low, pretty much at this level as well, another high ever so slightly higher, but basically the same, but then a distinct higher low here. Then a higher high above that point, and that was retested. So this is where I would look for a trade on this occasion. So if this happens again, if this price action happens again, if price gets somehow all the way down to here and then it holds at this level, I would be looking for that higher high and pull back, and then this is the area here that I would be looking to get in to a potential trade. When I say this is the area, I don't necessarily mean this number, this value. I just mean in terms of the technicals, in terms of the picture, that break of the high and then pull back to the level, that's where I would be looking to get into the market. So I'm not looking to get in at this low because I don't know if that low is actually going to break or not. I'm looking to see whether this low can hold, and if it does, then I'm looking for a higher high and a higher low in order to start my move, potentially then all the way back up to the top of this range. So that's something to potentially look out for there. Are there any cryptos that you guys particularly want me to take a look at? There are others available to trade at IC markets. We've got Litecoin that we could have a look at. That is having a particularly bearish day today. And again, we've got a reasonably well-defined area here of resistance, which has been support in the past, and a low around this point here. So we're just ranging sideways. Price has obviously hit its head again at this level of resistance and heading to the downside. So, you know, really it's the same story for me. I need to see price turn around at whatever point, but I need to see it then make higher highs, come back and retest, and then I would be looking for a long opportunity over here. Let me just check. Okay. Avalanche. At the moment, this level down here, it's around $15. That is the floor that I see. So again, in line with the other cryptos and in line with the US indices as well, I would be looking for this horizontal level to be potentially tested and hold, or this is the level that I would be looking to be tested, break, and then move to the downside. So around this $15 mark down here. At the moment, this is bearish, so we do have a downtrend here. Today's price action has been particularly bearish. This suggests to me that the probability or the possibility for price to reach down to this level here is fairly strong. It wouldn't surprise me at all if price were to get all the way back down to these lows. And if that were to happen, then I would simply be looking, is price going to, let's just move a little bit more onto the chart there. Is price going to hold at that level, or is it going to break that level? So I need to see if price is going to break that level. It is likely to happen alongside the other cryptos breaking down through their levels of support and alongside those equities breaking down through those levels of support as well. In which case I would be bearish on this. There isn't much, I haven't got any data on this back past the beginning of this year, so I don't even have a potential level of support to aim for. In terms of when a good potential time to buy this would be, I need to see this trend turn around. So I would need to see, for example, the price action that we see over here. Price has reached down to this level, it's made a high, it's come back down, retested, made another high, back down, higher low over here. Then it has broken the high and retested. So this point here potentially is an area to get into the market. Now, as I've said, this is a perfect example when I've been talking about being very conservative about trading and making sure to cover my back, i.e. scaling out of trades to make them turn them into break-even situations in case price comes back. So with a trade here, let's just say I was trading bar by bar using an entry here at the top of that candle and a stop loss at the bottom of the candle. I could take half of my profits off at 1-to-1, and that means that if price comes all the way back down and stops me out, which is eventually what happened here, my profit is net zero. I've made profit on half the trade, I've lost profit on the other half of the trade. Overall it's zero, but at least I gave myself the opportunity into the market, the opportunity to be there just in case this was the beginning of a crypto rally. So I would say the same thing here. I'm going to be looking very closely at how price reacts at this horizontal level if it gets down there. And in order to buy this, I will be looking for a higher high, and then I will be looking for a retest of that level. And that's the area that I would get in over here. And if I were to get in there, I would be very conservative. I would just target 1-to-1, take half of my position off. That leaves half of the position to be in case we get a rally, and half of the position to have taken profit on in case price comes down, stops me out, and I lose the trade. I'll be net zero. I hope that makes sense. So, you know, very similar to some of these others, but basically I want to see price action lead. I want to see a higher low in price action. I want to see a higher high in price action. And then I want to see a retest of a level so that I get a decent entry price. What I don't want to do is I definitely don't want to be seeing something like this where price is going up. I see a higher low, and then I think, okay, I'm going to get in here. That's definitely not what I want to be doing. I want to see a level broken, and I want to see good price to get in, because these things can turn around very, very quickly. We saw it, you know, I think a lot of people were potentially preparing to get back into Ethereum a couple of weeks ago because we did see higher lows and higher highs, but you can see how dangerous it can be if you get caught up in this stuff here. You can very quickly lose out. So what I do need to see is I need to see higher high, higher low, and then I need to see a pullback and a level retested before looking to get into the market. Anything else that anyone wants to particularly look at? Let's have a look at, I already did Litecoin. Very much talked about because of Elon Musk. This one is looking particularly bearish at the moment. So here is the low. Down here, there is a distance to go before we hit the low. And I would say, well, there is another slight bit of potential support around here. Price is looking pretty bearish for today. I wouldn't be surprised if we made it all the way down to this low. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. So then again, it would be a case of, if price holds here, I need to see a higher low and a higher high in order to get in. And also, I think realistically, I need to see a break. There's another horizontal level here. We can see support, we can see resistance. So really, if we're looking to the upside, I don't particularly want to be trading into that horizontal level, not from around here, right in the middle. If price were to reach all the way down to the bottom here, then absolutely there's the potential to trade up to that level and get a reasonable reward to risk. So it depends on how far price pulls back to, really. I see the potential for it to get down to here, in which case then a higher low and higher high could give enough reward to risk to trade back up to this level, but that is a level of resistance that I am going to take seriously. There's another level just here that we can see. There's been resistance in the past. Last time price got to that level a few weeks ago, it was resistance again, and it basically ended in this the beginnings of this next kind of small little downtrend here. So that is a significant level. So I think what we're seeing with cryptocurrencies is we are seeing price bounce between levels. We're seeing a lot of indecision, and I don't really see at the moment any potential for long-term trading in terms of kind of high probability long-term trading. Of course, there's the possibility that another rally could start, and if we get in here, then we might, we might be near the lows, and it's all going to be sunny days from here. But I think more likely at the moment, the market seems very, very cautious, very, very undecided, and we're more likely to see more ranging and sideways markets. So I would be very, very conservative about my targets, very conservative about my risk management, very, very cautious about any horizontal levels. I would fully expect horizontal levels to be bounced from rather than broken in these market conditions. And I need to see price lead. I need to see the technical picture lead. I need to see evidence of a renewed bull trend before I get into buying, and I need to see the same for selling. So I'm going to briefly go back to the presentation here. Bear with me while I get that up. Just to give you the contact details that you might need. If you have any questions, then they've got a fantastic customer service team at IC Markets. There's a phone number there that you can contact. They've also got an email address that you can use to contact them. They've got all of the usual socials, so Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, to learn more about IC Markets or their services, then do get in touch. And I hope to speak to you again in the not too distant future at another one of these webinars. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good evening.